Hello, my name is Nix and welcome to part 2 of how to make own build tutorial. If you haven't watched my first video, I highly recommend doing that because I explained a lot of general information in there and I won't be explaining it in as much details anymore. In this part I will be talking how to make build that focuses purely on damage of damaging effects, so damage over time and doom, as a main source of the damage without using spender skill. It is voted to in the poll which archetype you want to be first, and this one won by a landslide. Later part of the guide will be talking about Titan Hand and Void Fields separately, since there are some differences between them, but early parts are the same for both. I also want to mention that my guides will explain how to make builds that focus on doing so-called endless or deep push, meaning we try to maximize our DPS in late game, not early on. I'll also be explaining everything without using skill mastery runes. You can use them to make better builds, but it definitely increases the level of theory crafting, so you can get into that once you are comfortable with making regular builds. When making build that focuses on damaging effects, so bleed, burn, poison or doom, we will always be focusing only on one of them. We might have more of them, more than one for some specific purpose, but all of the damage will be coming from only single type. This is because by doing that we end up with bigger overall DPS than if we would take all of them. So forget about using Miss Fortune's Embrace rune or chromatic skills in your build. Chromatic skills are good to snapshot certain effect, but you don't want to keep it for longer than needed. I already explained snapshotting in previous video, so I won't be talking about that again. Alright, so first step can differ from person to person. You either decide what character you want to play, or decide what damaging effect you want to use. If your first step is deciding what character you will play, based on that character you will pick which damaging effect works the best with it. And if your first step is choosing damaging effect, then you need to look for a character that will work well with it. Technically every character can work with every damaging effect, but some are just made better for a specific one. So you can play, let's say, Poison Pyromancer, but picking Beastmaster for it will work much better. Personally, I prefer to pick a character first, so I go with, I don't know, let's say, Elementalist.
Balance requires action.
Okay, now we need to decide whether we make build for the Titan Hunt or Void Fields, because builds for those modes will be completely different. I'll start with Titan Hunt. Currently in Titan Hunt, all damage over time effects are vastly inferior to spender builds, except Doom. Doom is only damaging effect that has proper Titan power that makes pure Doom build stronger, while not... let me change for so the character won't interrupt us. So yeah, the Doom is the only damaging effect that has proper Titan power that makes pure Doom build stronger, while not making spender build using Doom stronger. That power is Fangs of Doom. I hope to see something similar to other free effects in the future, but for now there is nothing. We have only for Doom. Technically other effects also have some fancy power for them, but they are just so weak in comparison that it doesn't really count. Alright, so we know that we go with Elementalist, we are going with Doom, and we will be using Fangs of Doom. Let's see how exactly Fangs of Doom work. Every time we apply Doom, we have chance to deal 1.5% of all Doom damage collected on the target instantly as extra damage. So we can split this power into 3 steps. First of all, we want Doom application. Since it says whenever we apply Doom, not whenever we hit, it means that the more unique applications of Doom we have, the higher chance we have to trigger the effect. What I mean by that is that each separate source of Doom has own chance to trigger it, meaning we want as many of them. Not counting application of Doom of the skill itself, for example the Vortex applies Doom. Maybe let me show the skill.
Through the great void, we must
Vortex,
endure.
as you can see, applies Doom by
The
itself.
tide rises.
We have access to 4 different sources of Doom. Those being Poison to Doom Synergy, Doom on Crit, Doom on Hit Green tier, and Doom on Hit White tier. 2 rarities of Doom on Hit actually count as separate sources, and that's why I mentioned them separate. So now let's do some math. For Synergy, we definitely will be using Synergetic Rune, meaning it has 75% chance to apply it every time we apply Poison. Since we will also have both Poison on Hit tiers and Poison on Crit, it's actually 75% chance to apply Doom 3 times. In addition to that, we have 50% chance from Doom on Crit and 25% chance from Doom on Hit 2 times. Okay, now we actually need to do math for 3 versions to compare which one is best one. You can skip this part if you don't care about min-maxing. Skill applies Doom by itself, skill applies Poison by itself, and skill that doesn't apply anything. For skill that applies Doom by itself, so for example the Vortex, we have 1 application of Doom from the skill, then 0.75 application from Synergy on average, since it's 0.185 from White Poison on Hit, 0.185 from Green Poison on Hit, and 0.375 from Poison on Crit, resulting in 0.75 in total. In addition to that, 0.25 from White Doom on Hit, 0.25 from Green Doom on Hit, and 0.5 from Doom on Crit. This in total gives us 2.75 application of Doom on average, meaning each hit will be able to trigger Fangs of Doom almost 3 times. Now let's see skill with Poison. Since we have extra source of Poison, application from Synergy will be higher, and now it's 1.5. Additional 0.75 from the skill itself, and additional 1 on average from all of the Doom sources combined. This leaves us with 2.5 application of Doom on average, little less than skill with Doom, but by not much. However, we apply Synergy twice as often, and most of our Doom damage will come from Poison to Doom Synergy. And the last one is skill with no Poison or Doom. We will check it because there are some skills that will have a lot of hits, which will be 0.75 from Synergy and 1 from all of the Doom sources, ending up with 1.75 applications of Doom on average. Much lower, but we still want to calculate it to compare, let's say, skill with Poison that has 17 hits and skill that has nothing with 24 hits, for example, Flamethrower. Okay, so second part of Fangs of Doom we will be focusing on is amount of hits. Since each application of Doom can trigger Fangs of Doom, naturally we also want to maximize amount of hits, not just amount of sources. The more hits, the better, but as shown not long ago, above, or few minutes before, whether skill applies Doom or Poison also matters. Skill with most amount of hits available to Elementalist is Blizzard,
Balance requires
which
action.
will have 25 hits in total. Another good option is Flamethrower, which just has 24 hits in total, 1 less, but can actually be aimed, and also fire skills actually pair well with certain Titan power. However, let's compare it to Poison Cloud, which is only 16 hits but applies Poison by default, which is this skill. So for Flamethrower it's 24 hits times 1.75, which we calculated before, application on average, giving us 42 Doom applications in total per cast. And for Poison Cloud, it has 16 hits times 2.5 applications on average, which I calculated before, giving us 40 Doom
Energy
applications in
flows.
total.
I guide it.
Yeah, giving us 40 Doom applications in total. Going with only those two parts, Poison Cloud would end up weaker. However, let's talk about third part of Fangs of Doom.
The tide rises.
And third part of Fangs of Doom is damage of the Doom. We not only want to trigger Fangs of Doom as often as possible, we also want to deal as much damage as possible when triggering it, meaning maximizing the Doom damage collected on the target. Poison to Doom synergy with proper setup can end up dealing between 50 to sometimes even 80% of entire Doom damage. So let's say we didn't have much luck and we ended up with average levels of synergy, and it ended up doing 60% of damage. For easy calculation, let's say entire Doom damage on the target, not the target, throughout the run was 1000, meaning synergy alone did 600 of that. So let's apply this to our previous calculations. So for Poison Cloud,
Balance requires action.
we have 16 hits in total, each hit applying Doom 2.5 times on average. However, 1.5 of that comes from Synergy and 1 from other
Energy
Doom
flows.
sources.
I guide it.
Okay, I wish this character wouldn't
The
speak all the
tide
time.
rises.
Okay, so this means that 16 hits, 1.5, which is the synergy, equals 24. Then we multiply that 24 by 600, which is damage of synergy, giving us 14,400 damage. And for the remaining source, it's 16 times 1, so 16 hits times 1 application. It gives us 16 hits, then we multiply, well, 16 applications, then we multiply that by 400, which is damage of other sources of Doom, giving us 6,400 damage. So in total, when we combine both of those, it's 20,800 damage of Poison Cloud for Poison Cloud. Doom damage. And now let's compare Flamethrower. We won't be comparing skill with the Doom because Elementaris doesn't have, as you can see, we don't have access to any shadow
The
skills.
tide rises.
Okay, so for this Flamethrower we have 24 hits in total, each hit applying Doom 1.75 times in total, or on average. However, only 0.75 of that comes from Synergy and 1 from other Doom sources. So this means we multiply 24 hits times 0.75, which gives us 18, and then we multiply that by 600 damage, which gives us 10,800 Doom damage from the Synergy. Then the remaining source of Dooms are 24 hits times 1 application, gives us 24. Then we multiply that by 400 damage, which gives us 9,600 Doom damage. So in total, Flamethrower ends up with 20,400 damage, Doom damage, which is actually little less than Poison Cloud. And if you get lucky with extra levels Synergy, difference will be even bigger. So this proves that skill with 16 hits can actually be better than skill with 24 hits. Alright, so the final conclusion is that skill with poison will actually be better for Fangs of Doom, even if amount of hits is much lower, like in the example 16 hits versus 24 hits. On top of that, it's actually more comfortable to play with, because we need poison to Doom synergy anyway, and if skill by itself doesn't apply poison, we need to snapshot it. Okay, maybe I will talk quickly what means snapshotting. Snapshotting means, for example, Elementaris doesn't have any source of Doom. So we take Chromatic Bolt or Chromatic Slash, which will give us access to Doom, Burn, Poison and Bleed. We keep this skill until we find Doom on hit. We take Doom on hit, and now we can replace this skill to the proper skill, We'll keep while keeping access to Doom passives because we have Swords of Doom, which is the one hit that we took. So that's
The
what
tide
snapshotting is.
rises.
Alright, so based on that knowledge, we look at elementary skills and we chose our first stack generator.
Balance requires
We look
action.
for a skill that has a lot of hits and apply poison on top of that, because we don't have one with Doom. So Poison Cloud has 16 hits. And apply weakness on top of that, which is negative effect. Which we also need, so it's definitely best pick. Poison Puddle, the skill, also hits 16 times in total, but debilitated is useless, so it is a little worse. And Poison Bolt hits only 5 times, so it's pretty bad in comparison. We also have Acid Rain, but it's hard to count how many times you hit with it on average, but definitely it's less than 16, so it's also a worse option. So we stay with Poison Cloud. Okay, so now that we picked which skill will be our main stack generator, we need to decide how
Energy flows. I guide it.
how do we support it. In previous video, I already explained why negative effects are so important, so naturally we want to have all of the important ones. In Titan Hunt,
The tide rises.
it's pretty easy, as pretty much all of them can be picked from Titans, so we don't need to worry about picking skills with them. This gives us ability to focus on supporting our skills in other way. Naturally, we want to cast it as many times as possible to have more hits in total, apply more Doom and trigger Fangs of Doom more often. But how do we do that? Well, we could try lowering cooldown of it with something like Bloodlust, for example. However,
Balance
since
requires
Elementalis doesn't
action.
have access to high chaos skills, we don't have by default access to Bloodlust.
The tide
We could also
rises.
just pick another similar skill to that, pretty much doubling our output. So for example, Poison Puzzle on top of that. But there is much better option, something that allows us to cast this skill not twice as often, but 10-20 times as often. And that is skill chains. Previous video explained what are those and how they work, so I won't be repeating that. Elementalis actually has access to few nice low cooldown skills that can be used
Balance
for
requires
skill chains,
action.
so let's look closer on a few of them. So, first one would be Earthbolt. Earthbolt has cooldown of base cooldown of 1.3 second, and Earth Attack. On top of that provides Colossal, which is extra area of effect for Poison Cloud. Another option would be Firebolt. It has base cooldown of 2 seconds and Fire Attack. It applies weakness, but we already have it, so we don't really care about that. And it also provides Burn, which would clutter our passive pool with useless burn passives. We already have those from Elementaris passive tree, but adding more than one unlocks few extra passives. I already explained that in previous video as well. And another option would be Frostbolt.
Energy flows. I guide it.
Frostbolt has cooldown of 0.9 second, so it's lowest, and gives us source of slow from Icy Veins, which is needed to get access to this array. However, we already have it from Elementaris passive tree, so that is not big deal. So going by cooldown only, Frostbolt would be the best, but 0.3 second of Earthbolt is still low enough to be very good, and extra Colossal is also very nice, so I would actually pick Earthbolt in here. And of course, we need more than one skill to actually have skill chains. So what other Earth skill we pick? All other ones, as you can see, have very high cooldown. Well, here is where singular focus rune comes handy. It will allow us to pick Earthbolt multiple times, how many times do we pick it? Technically we could pick it 5 times with only those 2 skills and call it a day. However, since we use skill chains, we naturally will be also using Divine Legacy rune. Maybe let me
Energy
show you
flows.
those skills,
I
those
guide
runes. Here is the Singular Focus, and here is Divine Legacy. Here is also Synergetic that I was talking about before. Yeah, since we also use skill chains, we naturally will be also using Divine Legacy rune to find legendary skill chains passive every 30 levels. Divine Legacy will offer us 3 passives, so in theory we could go for 3 different skills. However, it would add too many different passives. It would be impossible to remove all useless ones, meaning chance to actually take all 3 passives every 30 levels we want would be quite hard. So going with 2 skills is much better option. This means that we take Add Bolt 4 times in total, we take Poison Cloud, and we also need to find our second stack generator. Obviously it needs to be different type than nature, and we also like to scale both of them together. So since Poison Cloud is physical, we also want to take another physical skill. Unfortunately, only physical skill with lots of hits that isn't nature is Avalanche, which isn't that bad. It has 15 hits in total, and we also apply Fragility, which would save us 1 Titan passive as well. But of course, some skills are just more hits. So now that we have 2 options, we have our 2 stack generators. Now we have 2 options to pick from. We either take Avalanche and call it a day, and it will end up pretty good. Another option is to actually scrap idea of using Poison Cloud and check magical skills instead. We can take Flamethrower, which from our previous calculation was only slightly worse than Poison Cloud. And as our second skill, we can take Blizzard, which has 25 hits in total, making it much better than Avalanche. So even though Flamethrower would be a little weaker than Poison Cloud, Blizzard will be much better than Avalanche. This setup will most likely end up a little stronger than Poison Cloud and Avalanche, unless you are super lucky with a lot of levels to Synergy, then Poison Cloud would end up a little stronger. Overall, if you don't care about min-maxing it, it doesn't really matter to you that much. The difference between both versions will not be that big, probably 1 more Titan killed. To make it simpler, let's stay with version with Poison Cloud and Avalanche, because as I said before, for skills
flows. I guide it.
for skills without poison we would need to snapshot it, which can be kinda annoying. So we stay with purple 4 times, Avalanche and Poison Cloud. Since we are not using any skill from the weapons, we can decide which one do we pick for the build. None of the starting skills from each weapon gives anything that we could snapshot, so we will be looking at artifact power instead, which is this a little extra thing. Legendary weapon artifact gives us brittle, which is useless for us. Fourth weapon gives us poison, which normally would be good, since it could apply more doom through synergy. However, artifact will have so little hits compared to our stack generators
Energy flows. I guide it.
that it doesn't matter. And third weapon gives us burn, which we don't want. Second weapon gives us slow, which we already have from Avalanche, and passive 3. And the first weapon gives us dazed, which is actually something we want in build, so that's one we pick, because it will give us extra crit chance. Okay, now we want to think about runes. For major runes we already decided that we will be using, let me grab those runes to show. We'll be using Singular Focus, to pick Earthbolt multiple times. Divine Legacy to force spawn legendary passives for skill chains, and Synergetic to boost chance to find poison to Doom and boost chance of it triggering. Well, but that is cost of 12 points in total, so we don't have that much running power. This is where Demonic Path comes handy. Since we have 3 rune slots, we can pick it to add 2 extra runic power, which is just enough to pick the 3rd rune from our list, the Synergetic. And for minor runes, the most important one will be Endless Refill, to constantly refill our rolls every cycle and also provide a lot of locks for Divine Legacy. On top of that, you can take Reroll Mastery to have even more rerolls, and Unconventional Start, so you can start with Poison Cloud from the level 1. Those 2 runes are more of like quality of life. If you prefer, you can take both Materials runes or Ardus Training to get more prestige levels, so you can swap those to either Material runes or take Ardus Training if you want prestige levels. Okay, so we already know which skills we will be using, which weapon we will be picking, and which runes we will be using. Technically, you could now just start playing and YOLO it. However, I don't recommend doing that. Personally, I always plan my entire run before I even start it, and edit it if I find better option during the run to make the next run even better. What I mean by that is we plan what passives are our priority, what passives we will ignore, what passives we will banish. On top of that, since it's Titan Hunt, we need to decide which Titans we go for, in what order, and what powers we take from them. So it's best to start with deciding Titan powers and base your other choices on that. To do that, I recommend you playing the Mega Sheet. I will leave the link in the description. And open Titan Hunt page, where you can see all powers of all Titans. First of all, we want to deal with all of the important negative effects. We already have weakness from Poison Cloud, and Fragility from Avalanche, Dazed from Artifact Power, and we also will have Disarray from Slow to Disarray Synergy. This means we need 2 more of them, so we go for Lizard and take Shatter on hit, and we also go for the Spider and we take Disarray to the Disoriented once they actually have Disarray, but with Synergetic run it shouldn't take long. So on top of that, there are also a few Titan passives or powers that can give us a lot of stats from positive effects for just 1 point. So we want to go for Cobalt Twins and take Shatter to Prowess. We also want to visit the Beetle to take Aptitude on Crit, and we also want to visit Ogre to take Finesse from Multicast. At the start, those powers won't give much, but in the endgame they will allow us to reach soft cap or all 3 of them. So for just 1 point we can get a lot of extra stats. And that works pretty much for every build. And of course, after 4th Titan we also visit the King, from which we usually take 120% cast frequency, taller cooldown of our skill chain supports, and wound on crit, because it will allow us to apply more on Doom. Those few powers is something you will pick pretty much on every build. Obviously we still don't have Fangs of Doom, so we will visit Spider and we take it now. Early on you will have enough damage just from pure Doom without the Fangs, so you don't need to take it as soon as possible. And at this point you got all of the essentials and you can focus on getting stats. You still don't have that much of, I call those fillers, and what fillers you will end up using depends on you, but I will list few good ones. Since we have 4 very low cooldown skills, Form on a cast from the Scorpion is good source of crit chance. If you use fire skills as your main damage dealer, for example, if you would take the flamethrower, crit to fire skills is also a very good option from the Beetle. Crit to fire skills based on burn stacks. If you would go with flamethrower as one of our stack generator, it would actually be a good option because increasing crit chance of flamethrower would also make Doom applied by the flamethrower stronger. And it also got to get more cast frequency to lower our skill chains supports to lowest possible cooldown, which is 0.15 second. So 50% cast frequency from Beetle is nice option. And if you have a nicer skill, which in this build we have, 64% from Mushroom is also very good. And since we use Poison Cloud, that's the better option. At some point you won't need more cast frequency or form because of subcover at 800 stacks, so you'll need to move to passive that just gives extra damage or crit damage, like extra crit damage for each unique buff on us from the Ice Giant, extra damage to ice skills for each negative effect on the target, also Ice Giant. Damage for each slow stag is from the Ice Bird, damage for each bleed stag is from the Scorpion, damage for each aptitude stag is from the Skeleton, and so on. You just take whatever you can take. And when preparing list of titans, remember that you cannot pick same titan twice in a row. So if you need multiple different powers from the same one, you need to space them out and do something else in between. Once we prepare a list of titan and their powers we will take, based on that we decide what we will be focusing on when it comes to passives. So we will have a lot of damage, crit damage, multicast and crit chance from positive effects. So top priority for regular passives will be cast frequency to lower cooldown of skill chain supports, and on top of that we also take attack speed to Earth Bolt for same reason, since crit chance is pretty much a multiplier to crit damage because of how it works over 100%. It's also good to take it over other stats, and since we have 4 Earth skills in total, crit chance to non-Earth skills will be great source of that. This means we focus on those 2 stats, and other ones we are taken when nothing better is available. Since our build focuses on Doom, naturally all passives related to Doom will also be priority. So Doom on hit, Doom on crit, crit damage, Doom on hit, Doom on crit, Doom damage, and poison to Doom synergy, and also instant Doom damage is nice quality of life addition. Increasing damage of skills that are our stack generators will also increase damage of Doom applied by it, even if it's from on-hit effects. This means stuff like damage to Poison Cloud, damage to Avalanche, damage to physical skills, damage to area skills, damage to non-health skills can be treated same as Doom damage. Like mentioned earlier, Poison to Doom will be main source of Doom, so we obviously also want to priority it. And since we use skill chains, we also want to take skill chains passives when possible. So those are our priorities. Of course, depending on their build, those passives will be different. So let's say go bleed, so obviously we replace Doom passives with bleed passives. If you don't go with skill chains, you don't care about attack speed that much, and so on. So your priorities will be depending of the build you are making. Okay, so those are our priorities. Let's also tag out passives that will be pretty much useless for us, so we ignore them. In Titan Hunt, enemies penetrate 90% of defenses later on, so block and armor are pretty much useless. Once we take poison on hit both tiers once and poison on crit once, they become waste of points as we don't scale poison. Poison damage is also useless because we scale only Doom. Slow, same as poison, we just take on hit passives and on crit passives once. Disarray passives we don't even take once, because just this synergy is enough to reach hard cap. And we will also have access to burn on hit passives, because of Elementalist passive tree. Same as poison, they are useless to us. Everything else that is neither priority or is something we completely ignore, is just passive we take when there is nothing better available. And for the last step, before we actually can start playing, we also should decide what we will banish. Unfortunately, our skill chain support, which is the Earth Bolt, has both physical and magical attack, which means it adds a lot of useless passives, so we won't be able to remove all of them. Since we use Synergetic Rune, we want to make sure that once we find Synergy,
The tide rises.
it's Poison to Doom, the one we want to take. That's why we want to banish all other synergies available, either after picking it once, like Slow to Disarray, or as soon as we find them. We also try to make sure to not add more useless synergies, like by picking Disarray on hit after taking Slow to Disarray. This would give us a second source of Disarray and unlock Disarray to Blitz energy, which is completely useless to us and we would need to banish it. So in our build we will have access to Poison to Doom, Doom to Burn, and Slow to Disarray. So that's 2 Banishes, because we obviously don't banish Poison to Doom. After that we want to focus on cooling passives from Legendary Passives pool, so it's easy to get both skill chains every time we proc Divine Legacy. Since multicast is almost worthless for skill chains builds, we can get rid of that, and on top of that both of our stack generators are physical skills, so passives to magical skills are also useless. By removing the match, multicast and area of effect to magical, we are left with 5 banishes. We banish multicast to Earth Bolt, Poison Cloud and Avalanche, leaving us with 2 banishes. And for the last 2 we banish regular multicast, which also removes white, green, blue and purple tier of that passives, and obviously the yellow. And multicast to non-earth skills, as this one have, if I remember correctly, has also purple version, while multicast to physical skills has only legendary version. Okay, so last thing is deciding whether to keep the Ascension or not. In Void builds, pretty much all of them are worth keeping. However, in Titan Hunt, many of them take too long to activate, so they actually don't help at all when fighting Titans, because the timer for Ascension resets when you enter Titan Arena. Turning them off removes 3 useless passives from passive pool, so it can help. For Elementalist, I recommend turning it off. You can do it in here. It won't help us kill Titans faster, and because it is another source of burn, one is Elemental passive 3, one is in Elementalist passive 3, which means it would unlock burn to slow synergy and burn on crit passive. If we really want to min-max it, we can also even remove points from skill tree, which as you can see I already did that. We have the burn on hit in here, so how we can remove it, you can just respec entire tree and add all of the points back, leaving this one not added. This will remove burn on hit passives entirely, which means 2 less useless choices as well. Alright, so that's pretty much build done. Now we can actually start playing and test the build. I will do the test run with this build, with the recruited, so I will see you in a second at the end of the run, where I will be able to talk about the build a little.
There is an evil in the cave.
Alright, so
I will banish it.
this is a showcase of the build that we theory crafted earlier on. This will be most likely the last Titan I go for, so as you can see it will be 19 in total, so
Been secured.
ended up pretty
The
well.
balance shifts.
As you can see, the clear speed is pretty good of the regular encounters because of the
Soon, the
earth
sacred
bolts.
blood.
We ended up with over 1000 colossal, so that's
The path
way over
unfolds,
soft cap.
and the hunt continues.
So we have over 1000 area of effect, which is very good for Poison Cloud and Avalanche.
The elements align. Keep
And
pushing.
yeah, I went for the aptitude, prowess, like I said before, form.
Progress.
Could probably go for
I
one
hope
more
the
point
Titan is
into
ready.
form because I seem to never reach the soft cap of 800 stacks, so we could go for one more point. However, at this point Scorpion started to be kinda hard to kill without dying. Some multicast from Finas, we
Void
don't need that
fragments
much
contained.
because
Soon,
triggered
the
skills cannot
sacred
multicast.
blood.
It's mostly for
It's
the earth
time.
bolts to trigger
Let me
more of
strike
them.
down this Titan.
So yeah, let's see the damage. Since we use Fangs of Doom, at start the damage will be very low, but our damage is ramping. The longer the fight, the higher our damage. So you will see soon that the HP bar will start to move quite fast. As for the other bleed, poison and burn, you make the build for them pretty much the same. However, we don't have any good passive like Fangs of Doom for them, so they would most likely end up leaving after like 14-15 titans. And for Doom we have Fangs of Doom, which definitely carry us for much longer. Hopefully we'll get something similar for other negative damaging effects. Yeah, as you can see, the bar is moving quite fast right now, because the more Doom damage we collect on the target, the more damage Fangs of Doom does. So yeah, at this point I would be leaving because Titan starts to take around a minute to kill, but if you don't mind, well, I am doing that because I mostly try to be efficient with farming. If you don't care about farming materials or levels, you just play for fun and want to try how far you can go, you could easily go for like probably 5 more. Okay, so here are the stats. Surprisingly, Avalanche ended up with more damage than Poison Cloud, even though it has one less hit and actually doesn't apply poison, but that might be because Avalanche has more range and can aim it, while Poison Cloud will spawn and slowly move away. So while clearing the maps, Avalanche was killing most of the thing, but on actual bosses, Poison Cloud definitely was doing more than Avalanche. Yeah, the DPS, and let's see how the... Yeah, as you can see, Doom on hit and Doom on crit was around 110, and Synergy was 183, so around 65% for... actually, let me do quick math. 58 and 51, and 194. Yeah, around 63-65% was just the Synergy. Honestly, let me see how many levels did I get. 19, so yeah, that's decent. Sometimes you will get more, sometimes you will a little less. I would say that average is between 15 to 25. Well, not you would end up with something between 15 and 25. If unlucky, you will get less. If lucky, more, and around 18 to 20 is average. So yeah, at this point you can be happy with this build because it ended up pretty good. But you can still try to min-max it, try to change some stuff. For example, you can try the other version with Flamethrower and Blizzard and compare them. Maybe the other one would end up better. You can also start using Skill Mastery Rune, which I mentioned at the start of the video, and replace skills to something else, for example Avalanche to other stack generator that would hit more often. For the very good would be something like actually I don't think there is good stack generator for shadow skills that is physical attack, because that vortex is magical. But maybe there is, I just don't remember, but skill that applies Doom by itself will definitely be better than a skill that doesn't apply anything. Or you can try other skill that is also physical, but has more hits, for example 20. Machines has a lot of those. So yeah, that it is for the Titan hunt, and I will see you in a second when I'll be explaining a theory crafting build for void fields. Okay, we have finished with Titan hunt. Let's talk about void fields. In void fields, poison is the strongest damaging effect. However, in here difference between all of them is very small, so I can just pick one you like, and pretty much all of them work the same. You build them the same. We already talked about Doom, so let's go with Burn this time.
Balance requires action.
Already know that Synergy is main source of damage on build like this, so we'll focus on it again. However, Synergy for Burn is from Doom, and Elementalis doesn't have access to shadow skills, so if you don't want to use Skill Mastery Rune, you'll need to snapshot Doom on hit from one of chromatic skills. Already mentioned how do we do that. For void fields, making build is arguably a little more complicated, and we need to do more math or try out more things. Because we cannot just get all negative effects for free, and on top of that they are much stronger in here, we need to get them in our build from skills. This means that we need to compare what will be better, supporting our stack generator with skill chains, or supporting it with a skill that will apply negative effect. First of all, we obviously want to find our stack generator, and since we go with Burn this time, best choice would be a skill with as many hits as possible, and one that applies Doom by default in addition to that, like for example that Vortex.
Death answers.
Here. But without Skill Mastery Rune, Elementalis doesn't have any skill like that available. Next best option will be skill with as many hits as possible and one that applies Burn on top of that. This time we actually have great option available, and that is Flamethrower. Okay, now let's see options for negative effects. Best option is to look for skill that will also work as something else on top, like another stack generator. We will have some dazed stacks from the artifact power, from the first weapon. However, it might not be enough to reach cap of 1000 stacks. So we have few good options available for that. And it is obviously Lightning Beam, which is good from the first weapon. Another is Power Conductor, and also Shockwave Totem. Since Shockwave Totem doesn't have Cunning trait, which makes enemies, not enemies, the summons prioritize important enemies like bosses, It will most likely just apply dazed on whatever is closest, so shoot all over the place and instead focusing on bosses. So power conductor will be much better option. We just need to make sure to place them close to bosses. I'm pretty sure that once we get few quantity passives for it, it will outperform lightning beam when it comes to amount of hits, which not only means more dazed stacks, but also more burn applied. So we go with this one over lightning beam. Maybe if you would be lucky with skill chains to electric, maybe lightning beam would be slightly better, but both of them are very good.
Energy
Okay,
flows.
so
I guide it.
that is for dazed. We will have also disarray from slow to disarray synergy, so we don't need skill for that. And for fragility, our only option is avalanche, but it is actually very good skill. Not only it will apply a lot of the fragility, but it is yet another stack generator for us to apply burn. Okay, so for weakness we have a few options, but best option is Poison Cloud, because once again it's another good stack generator. And now comes the hardest part. We still want Shattered and Disoriented in our build. However, skills that provide those are not stack generators on top. They will only provide extra damage through negative effect. So now the question is, will they apply enough of those stacks to justify taking them over using, for example, skill chains? Since we have 2 slots left, we could think about some skill chains. Or for example, another stack generator. You technically could math it out, count on average how many stacks you would apply, knowing that, let's say, in cycle 10 you have X amount of multicast and Y amount of cast frequency, but it will never be accurate. What I like to do is just to take the skill, do the actual run with it, see how it performed in endgame, and then based on that decide whether changing it to something else would be a better option or not. So pretty much min-maxing.
I guide it.
Yeah, pretty much min-maxing if you are interested in that. Personally, it is fun for me. So for Shattered, we have options to take either Flame Wave or Lava Shield, but Lava Shield seems to have better ratio for Shattered stacks, so we go with this one. And for Disoriented, we'll take Glacier, since it's pretty much only option for us, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, since we are not using skill chains this time, runes will be a little different. Obviously, we still want to take Energetic Rune. That one is pretty much mandatory, but we won't be using Singular Focus or Divine Legacy, which we used before. Since we will most likely reach hard cap of Dazed stacks, which is 1000, and we don't have source of aptitude for extra crit damage, Critical Mastery Rune is actually a very good choice. Another one is Elemental Flow, which is very strong rune early on, and even in late game it can be stronger or the same as other runes, so it's another very good choice. And for the last one we can take something like Executioner to get 20% more damage. Synchrony I didn't count, but might also be decent. And Multicast Mastery is also very good. Personally I like to take Multicast Mastery because it also makes our negative effect supports apply more stacks, giving us higher bonus from them as well. And for the minor runes, it's pretty much the same as Titan Hunt. If you care about farming, take material runes or Altus Training if you want prestige levels. But if not, you can just take Andrew's Refill reroll mastery, and unconventional start. So to get a lot of rerolls and logs, and unconventional start to get Poison Cloud from level 1. No, not Poison Cloud, this time we want Flamethrower from level 1. Okay, so once again, we are not using any specific skill from weapon, so we can freely choose which weapon to pick, based on stats and the artifact power. We most likely will have enough dazed from Power Conductor, so this time I would actually go
Energy
with
flows. I guide it.
third weapon, because its artifact power applies burn. Now we need to decide whether we keep Ascension. Technically it would be some pretty extra damage, however it will add extra source of poison, unlocking Poison to Doom synergy, which we would need to disable, not disable, banish. And if we keep it, we can get Doom this way, to not bother with snapshotting. However, if you want to min-max the build, I would recommend disabling Ascension. Okay, before we start playing the build, just like for Titan Hunt, I recommend planning your run. Obviously, we don't need to worry about order of Titan powers, but we still want to decide what will be our priorities, what we will ignore, and what we will banish. Since we will be focusing on burn, we want to prioritize Doom to burn synergy and all other passives related to burn. Those are top priority. On top of that, adding damage to our skills will also increase damage of burn that they apply, so it is also good, although increasing damage of all skills at once
Energy flows. I guide it.
will be much better than just single one. So group passives will be our priority, while we ignore single ones. Same thing with multicast and crit chance. Quantity to Power Conductor is pretty much only single skill passive that we want to prioritize. For Banishes we actually have much more freedom this time. We don't use skill chains this time, so multicast is actually good for us. Obviously we still want to get rid of bad synergies, so we banish slow to disarray after we take it once, and we banish burn to slow without taking it at all. Since we will have lots of extra damage from group passives and burn damage, I would also banish regular damage and Leviathan. On top of that, Magnet or XP passives after we get around 200 extra XP, and movement speed once we get fast enough, usually around 200 to 250% extra. So that's 6 out of 10, leaving us with 4. I don't think we have anything to banish that would remove 3 or more passives at once, so now we can just call all passives for damaging effects we don't care about. So we banish Poison on hit, we banish Doom on hit, obviously after we already taken both tiers once. We can banish Slow on hit, obviously same after we take both tiers on hit once. And we can banish Disarray on hit. All of those will remove two useless passives each. That still leaves us with few useless passives, and those will be ones we ignore. We still are left with Doom damage, which we don't care about. On top of that, Slow on crit, and Doom on crit, and Doom instant damage, which only want to, well, Slow on crit and Doom on crit we take once, instant Doom damage we don't take at all. Everything else is pretty much take when there is nothing better available. And since in Void Fields enemies penetrate only 50% of defense, not 90%, we are not ignoring block and armor this time. And I will also show you that for Void Fields we actually don't need to maximize, go with 62 I think is max cursor possible. 40 is actually enough to get max reward, so as you can see, even if I add extra points it doesn't go up. So here are the each level what I choose. You can use the same ones if you want. Or if you care about extra challenge, you can go for 62. Okay, and now we are ready to try out the build and see how it performs. I'll do that, and I will see you in a second at the end of the run, where I will be able to talk a little more about the build.
All rains have an ending.
Alright, so
I will bring you
I am at cycle 9, which will probably be last one, or second to last one. We'll see how well this one will go. And I noticed a few things about this build, because, like I said, mapping everything out is one thing, and actually checking it in the game is actually I prefer doing that way. So first thing I noticed that one point into just slot to this array synergy is not enough usually to reach hard cap of this array on the enemies, which is 1000. Sometimes I'll be close to that, sometimes I'll be around like 600. So I would change that and actually take it one more time before banishing it. Another thing is that I am at cycle 9 and I still didn't banish movement speed because I just didn't find it this many times, so maybe I was just unlucky, but honestly that would mean that I actually banish something else instead. For example, Doom damage, which is useless for us. And another thing is that if you will look at the HP bars of the bosses, and you can see amount of stacks of various negative effects. Shattered and Disoriented will be at around 200 stacks. So Glacier and Magma Lava Shield only gives us around, and I would need to do exactly math for the Shattered, but Disoriented 200 stack gives us 3 times more damage. So now you could actually check that maybe changing Glacier and Lava Shield to something else, for example Blizzard that has 25 hits, another stack generator, could end up being better. So yeah, that's at this point you can just try to min-max the builds. Best to do it by just trying out the other things, do another run, compare it, instead of trying to calculate everything on paper. Because each run will be a little different, you will have different amount multicast, cast frequency and so on, so hard to predict exact stats you will have. Just best to just do one run or even two to have like average and compare it this way. So yeah, this cycle still goes decent, but honestly next one would probably kill me. So then I'll just leave out this one. So yeah, around cycle 10, 11 you would leave with this build. Maybe if you would min-max to get like best version possible, you would be able to add one more cycle, since you would need 10 times more DPS at this point to add one more. So yeah, min-maxing in void kills also won't change that much, since at cycle 10 each next cycle enemies have 10 times more HP. So even if you would be able to, for example, double your damage, it's still not necessary. It would allow you to reach next cycle like it is in Titan Hunt. So overall the build performed pretty well. You you can also try to compare, for
We
example,
thrive.
remove lava shield and glacier and take, for example, some skill chain supports and go with Divine Legacy. Maybe that would actually end up better. So yeah, there is few possibilities that you can check. That's why void fields can also be more interesting, because it gives you ability to test out more stuff, and perfect build is not as obvious as in Titan Hunt. Yeah, at this point I don't have any resurrects left, so
The
that will
hunt
be all
never ends.
for this run. Reached cycle 10, beat cycle 9, and up pretty well. Also, yeah, for the runes I am going with Andres Inferior Mastery and Conventional Start, because Void Fields gives less materials than in Titan Hunt, so I don't bother with material runes in this cycle. And from the runes, Synergy Critical Mastery, Elemental Flow, and Multicast Mastery, because it gives more damage. On average it's something like 22% more damage. But it also makes your skills repeat more often, well, because of that you have more DPS, but you will also, thanks to that, apply more stacks. So it's easier to reach the hard cap. So yeah, you could try replacing Glacier and Lava Shield to something else, add one more point into Hypothermia to reach the hard cap of this array to have higher damage bonus, and banish, for example, Doom damage instead movement speed, because I still didn't banish the movement speed, I still didn't reach enough for me to justify banishing it. Especially when I was unlucky to not find any extra dash. So I died not really to bosses, I died to... there is that one guy from the Grove map that will cast the giant area of effect around it, so with not enough movement speed and not enough dashes, it's pretty easy to die to that guy. Alright, so that is all, to be honest, for the pure dots or damaging effect builds for the Titan Hunt and for the Void Fields. Maybe I probably forgot about some less important information, because in this game there is a lot of information to keep track of, and it's easy to forget about some of them, but it should be enough to show you how to make your own build, to teach you what is important aspect of those builds, what to focus on, what to avoid, and so on. So hope that it was enough. If you have any questions, maybe something wasn't clear enough, you can always ask in the comments. I will obviously try to help and answer you. So hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye bye.